Hey guys, EDWON here. This is an update to VR Infinite Gesture tutorial for version 1.1. Now we've updated the plugin quite a bit, so the setup is slightly different. Double-handed gestures, a majorly refactored code base, tons of little changes to just make the plugin as robust as we can possibly make it. I have been supporting it through email and just hit me up anytime. I'm going to be demoing with Oculus, but this plugin totally works with Vive and Oculus Touch. This does not work for phones or anything like that. We've had a lot of weird emails asking about that. This is purely for VR, and this is for controllers in VR. You can check out more tutorials and documentation on our website, edwonstudio.com/VR-gesture. All right, let's dive right into the tutorial. We're going to start by importing the plugin. And this will be version 1.1. So right now we're going to import Oculus Utilities, but on Vive you would want to import Steam VR, this thing. Yeah. But anyways, this is Oculus, so let's import Oculus Utilities. And we're going to delete this junk from our scene. We don't need that, just for the purposes of this tutorial. And we're gonna drag in the OVR camera rig prefab. This comes in Oculus Utilities. On Steam, this would be the camera rig prefab. So all you need to do is add the VR gesture rig component, and you're gonna wait a second. You can see this. So once you see the auto setup button, hit auto setup, and we're just about ready to go. But let's go into settings. Under Tools VR Infinite Gesture, go into settings. And I'm just going to dock this over here. This is where our neural nets will show up. And over here under the settings tab, we have show VR UI. And we just want to confirm that VR type is set to Oculus. Finally, we're going to check our player settings and make sure virtual reality supported is checked. It is. And we want to make sure Oculus is here and that it's on top. Now, if you've already been working with VR and you've been maybe working with Vive as well, you might have this in there and it might be on top. That's wrong. If you're working with Oculus, Oculus needs to be on top. If you're on Vive, OpenVR needs to be on top. I'm on Oculus, so I'm just going to remove the OpenVR and leave it like this. Pretty much everything's ready to go. Let's hit play. Cool. So this is the VR UI for VR Infinite Gesture. This is one thing that's really cool about our plugin, is entirely in VR from this point. Once you've done the setup in the scene, you can do all of your gesture recording and processing. So we just made a new neural net. We're going to click on that and go into the gestures menu. We're going to make a new gesture. And you notice here a new option for double-handed or single-handed gestures. You do have to decide this before you record them. But right now we're just going to start with a single-handed gesture. So let's just start with a really simple, just a straight line. Just pushing away from the body. I'm going to record about 20 examples of this gesture. I'm going to do a couple bad ones, just for the sake of this tutorial. Okay, cool. So now we have the gesture in here, and if we click Edit, you can see this. This is our gesture gallery, and this is each recording kind of drawn in 3D space. What's cool about this is you can actually see where you might have messed up while you're recording. So for instance, here we have a couple goofy ones. If you just click the trigger, it'll actually delete those. Now it's important that you have a little bit of variety within your gestures, because people who are playing your game won't always do the gesture perfectly, and that's the beauty of the neural network. But the neural network gets smarter the more examples you give it, and the more those examples are similar yet different at the same time. So this one is a little different, but it's not so different so as to confuse the neural network. So let's make one more gesture, single-handed. We're just going to do a rainbow. Now keep in mind when you're doing the gestures, it's actually important like where you start, the position where you start and where you end. For instance, if we were to do one backwards like this, that's not good. That will be counted as like a different thing, and that would confuse the neural network. Now there are some ways to actually train the network on multiple versions of the same gesture and have the same result happening, but it's mostly going to be in code on your side. it's best to keep these gestures as separate or as similar with each other as possible within one gesture. Okay, cool. So let's go in there and check those recordings. Okay, we got a couple goofy ones. I think these are fine. Okay. Now we're going to hit process, and this is where the plugin will actually turn all of those examples we recorded into a brain. And if we go into detect, we're going to actually use that brain to detect the gestures. Cool, and it's totally seeing the difference between those two. We can also adjust the confidence here. This confidence basically tells the neural network like how accurate do we want to try to guess at these gestures. The higher the number, the more picky the neural network's going to be. And the lower the number, the more loose it's going to be. So this will get a pretty good result every time. That's a straight line, rainbow, cool. So let's try a double-handed gesture. So we're going to do like a force push. We're going to use both hands. On the left touch controller, you can press the X button to turn off the menu. Hold down both triggers and just start recording. So I'm just going to try to get a ton of examples of this. Let's see, that's about 48 examples. Each hand is its own example, so keep that in mind. That's about 25 each, which just about matches the other ones. And we're just going to check that out. Okay. Now this gesture gallery is a little different because this was a two-handed gesture. You can see here we have the left hand and the right hand recordings all kind of organized. You can go in and edit those, but these are all perfect. So I'm going to go back, hit process, and let's try that one. Cool, gesture 3 detected. Now, if we do the right hand, it's also going to detect the left and right hand separately. Now, you can react to that in code however you want, but we just thought it would be cool for people to be able to detect the left and the right hand or both of them together. And we pass in the event an is double-handed bool that you can check against if you only want to listen for the double-handed version of the gesture. So yeah, that's everything. Thanks for trying it out, guys. Hope you enjoyed the plugin. You can hit me up through our support section on our website, and hope you enjoy.